Women in the Caribbean. It is a curious thing to be a woman in the Caribbean after you have been a woman in these United States. It has been said that the United States is a large collection of little nations, each having its own ways, and that is right. But the thing that binds them all together is the way they look at women, and that is right too. The majority of men in all the states are pretty much agreed that just for being born a girl baby, you ought to have laws and privileges and pay and perquisites. And so far as being allowed to voice opinions is concerned, why, they consider that you are born with a law in your mouth, and that is not a bad arrangement either. The majority of the solid citizens strain their ears trying to find out what it is that their womenfolk want so they can strain around and try to get it for them. And that is a very good idea, and the right way to look at things. But now, Miss America, world's champion woman, you take your promenading self down into the cobalt blue waters of the Caribbean and see what happens. You meet a lot of darkish men who make vociferous love to you, but otherwise pay you no mind. If you try to talk sense, they look at you right pitifully as if to say, "What a pity, that mouth that was made to supply some man, and why not me, with kisses, is spoiling itself asking stupidities about banana production and wages." It is not that they try to put you in your place. No, they consider that you never had any. If they think about it at all, they think that they are removing you from man's place, and then granting you the privilege of receiving his caresses, and otherwise ministering to his comfort when he has time to give you for such matters. Otherwise, they flout your God-given right to be the most important item in the universe, and assume your prerogatives themselves, the usurpers. Naturally, women do not receive the same educational advantages as the men. The sex superiority is further complicated by class and color ratings. Of course, all women are inferior to all men by God and law down there. But if a woman is wealthy, of good family, and mulatto, she can overcome some of her drawbacks. But if she is of no particular family, poor and black, she is in a bad way indeed in that man's world. She had better pray to the Lord to turn her into a donkey and be done with the thing. It is assumed that God made poor black females for beasts of burden, and nobody is going to interfere with providence. Most assuredly, no upper-class man is going to demean himself by assisting one of them with a heavy load. If he were caught in such an act, he probably would become an outcast among his kind. It is just considered down there that God made two kinds of donkeys, one kind that can talk. The black women of Jamaica load banana boats now, and the black women used to coal ships when they burned coal. The old African custom of polygamy is rampant down there. The finer touches of keeping mistresses come from Europe, however. The privileges those men have of several families at the same time, and their wives don't like it a bit better than we do, but the whole national setup favors him and crushes her. If one woman is protected in breaking into her husband's arrangements and regulating his pleasures, what is to hinder the others? The thing might become general, and that would be a sad state of affairs. No, selfish, jealous wives must be discouraged. Women get no bonus just for being female down there. She can do the same labors as a man or a mule, and nobody thinks anything about it. In Jamaica, it is a common sight to see a skinny-looking but muscular black woman sitting on top of a pile of rocks with a hammer, making little ones out of big ones. They look so wretched with their bare black feet all gnarled and distorted from walking barefooted over rocks. The nails on their big toes thicken like a hoof from a lifetime of knocking against stones. All covered over with the grey dust of the road, those feet look almost saurian and repellent. Of course, their clothing is meager, cheap, and ugly, but they sit by the roadside on their enormous pile of rocks and crack down all day long. Often they build a slight shelter on palm leaves to protect them from the sun. The government buys the crushed rock to use in road building and maintenance. It is said that a woman who sticks to her business with the help of a child or two can average about $1.50 per week. It is very hard, but women in Jamaica must eat like everywhere else, and everywhere in the Caribbean, women carry a donkey's load on their heads and walk up and down mountains with it. But the upper-class women in the Caribbean have an assurance that no woman in the United States possesses. The men of her class are going to marry inside their class. They will have their love affairs and their families wherever they will or may, but seldom does one contract a marriage outside of his class. Here in the United States, a man is liable to marry wherever he falls in love. The two things are tied together in his mind. But in the Caribbean, it is different. Love and marriage need not be related at all. What is shocking to an American mind is that the man has no obligation to a girl outside of his class. She has no rights which he is bound to respect. What is worse, the community would be shocked if he did respect them. Fatherhood gives no upper-class man the license to trample down conventions and crash lines, nor shades of color lines by marrying outside his class. Here is an example of this from Jamaica. A pretty girl, but definitely brown, boarded a train to come down to Kingston to work for the United Fruit Company as a typist. A young man, a mulatto, was already on the train traveling in the same class as the girl. He was immediately attracted to the girl's lush appeal and laid siege. This went on for months after she was established in Kingston and her mother had come to join her. The girl was thrilled at his attentions, even though he never took her out to meet his friends. She began to dream the impossible, that this mulatto of good family had honorable intentions towards her mama's daughter. Now then, her girlfriend, in whom she confided her great hope and greater love, began to tell her that rumors were about that he was engaged to a girl of his own set. The lovelorn little country bird charged him, but he denied it in the most positive manner. She believed him, and kept up the female game of advance and retreat to lure him into the golden circle of matrimony. Then one Sunday night, he did not call to take her for a country ride as usual. He did not come home until Tuesday night. He did not come into the house then. He stayed in the car and called her to come and go for a ride. As soon as she was in the car, she said, "George, my friend says that you are going to be married. She says that the girl's mother came to borrow cake pans from my friend's mother early Monday morning, saying that you were going to marry her daughter tomorrow. Is it true?" "No, it is not true, darling. I love no one but you. But you think I would be taking you for a drive tonight if I expected to marry someone else tomorrow?" He drove faster up into the wooded heights and away from Kingston. Up in a safe little spot, he induced her to leave the car after a struggle and possessed her. Afterwards, standing above her, he said humbly, "I lied to you, my dear. I am getting married tomorrow, as they told you. But I just had to have you. I could have no peace of mind for thinking of you. I had to do it tonight because tomorrow I will be married, and I could not continue calling on you. Come on, get into the car. I've got to get on back to town and attend to several things for tomorrow." And he drove like the wind to her door, and never even alighted to help her, but rushed her out of the car. In the struggle before getting out of the car, before her seduction, she had lost one of her pumps. Evidently not wishing to leave any clues for his bride to find, he discovered the shoe a short distance from the house of the ravished girl, and threw it in the road where it was found later by her friend, and returned to her. His wedding, next day, was considered one of the great social events of the year. But that is not the end. A year or two later, this same man heard that the girl he had ravished was about to marry. He told the other man of his own experience with her, and asked in a scornful tone, "You don't want second-hand goods, do you?" The other man did not. She is still around Kingston, drinking too much and generally being careless of herself. But what becomes of her is unimportant. The honor of two men has been saved, and men's honor is important in the Caribbean. In Haiti, the law says that a woman may accuse no man of being the father of her child unless she is married to him. Thus, unattached men who have been out for a few nights of pleasure need fear no embarrassment from girls who come to complain of consequences. Furthermore, several intelligent Haitian women have told me that a man may marry a girl, But if he wishes to do so, he can return her to her parents by simply saying, "I was not the first." Then he can vindicate his honor by getting a divorce and marry the woman he prefers. So far as the discarded bride is concerned, she has no redress. She cannot refute his statement. What could she offer as proof? The marriage would have to be consummated before the husband could have grounds for his complaint, and after that the bride is in a difficult position to make out a case for her virginity before marriage. It is barely possible that some girls, not really wanted as wives, but unattainable otherwise, have been traduced out of their good names and their husbands' homes at the same time after satiation. Who knows? Take the case of Mr. A. He was a widower in his late 40s. A spinster in her early 30s worked in a store very near his place of business. They fell in love and he proposed marriage. They married quietly and went to Leogane to spend their honeymoon. Leogane is a small town about 12 miles south of Port-au-Prince. During the night, he accused her of having lost her virgin status and not only drove her from his bed, but he also drove her from the house. She, in this great distress of mind, started out to walk back to Port-au-Prince because she had no other way of getting there. Turned out penniless and bare-handed the way she was. But her virtuous husband considered that she was getting off too light. He went outside himself and gathered up a band of rowdies and paid them to follow her all the way to Port-au-Prince, beating drums and dishpans and 5-gallon cans, while they made announcements about the state of affairs to everyone they met. This outraged man, whose honor had nearly been tampered with, secured a divorce and married a sister of a well-known physician in Port-au-Prince. The allegedly unvirtuous wife hid around a year or two and died. Perhaps she suffered some, but then he was a man and therefore sacred, and his honor must be protected, even if it takes 40 women to do it.